Welcome to Carrow Road. Michael Bailey here, watching Norwich City games, so you don't have to. Yeah, okay. So you're going to see a lot of stuff about how poor today was, and I'm talking here as someone who loves watching all kinds of football, to be honest. So I have seen worse goalless draws, and actually both sides, had their moments, pressed on occasions, and tried to force the issue at times, but the quality of chances weren't great. The keepers tended to have a pretty quiet evening, and in the end Norwich City played out a goalless draw with Nottingham Forest. Both sides are in mid-table, both sides are struggling for points, although Forest are in a decent little run of form and are doing pretty well. Underwriter Karanka and are developing well, so some promising signs there, and they've got some very good young players actually as they develop. So it'll be interesting to see where he can take them and what he can do with them. But for Norwich, it's harder because there's a rebuild going on, and there are players who are doing well who aren't necessarily going to be here next year, and that's going to be probably an ongoing theme over the rest of this season, which of course is now almost certain to peter out into a bit of nothingness. And having spoken to Alex Tettey, as far as he's concerned, the idea is to try and pick up and finish closer to 8th, 9th and 10th, and that's kind of where the expectations are now. In terms of the action on the pitch, I mean, probably the thing that stands out to me was a fan running on the pitch and basically being allowed to wander around for about a minute without any of the stewards bothering to arrest him, which seemed hideously bad security in terms of the guys at Carrow Road, and I'd like to think that won't be repeated, and maybe they would make an effort to actually stop the invader in future. That said, it probably still brought one of the bigger cheers of the evening. I think he actually had to go and run over to the stewards to be caught and stopped in the process, so that kind of sums that up. We had some good spots from Onel Hernandez. Norwich, generally their better phases of play came from working the ball as they do. They would try to be more direct and create a bit more space, which at times worked, and as I said, Onel Hernandez was probably the person who was able to take advantage of that most and had quite a bright performance. Wes Hoolahan came on for the last 18 minutes, and as opposed to when it felt a bit sad when he came on against Bolton and looked short of pace and couldn't keep with the tempo, this time around he really had an influence, and actually his crossing and service into the box was better than anything we've seen in weeks really. So that was lovely to see. It would be good if there was something of a flourish for Wes Hoolahan, whether this is his last season in yellow or not. Just to say also, Alex Tettey confirmed after the game that he has been offered a new contract from Norwich City to stay, but Tettey and his advisors don't feel it's what they would want, which is no surprise because he's on, Premier League or chasing Premier League style wages, and Norwich are probably going to be able to offer about half that going forward. So I don't know if there's really going to be a resolution to that one. We will see, and it's not really at the forefront of Alex Tettey's mind. Now, of course, the elephant in the room, if that's the right word, is Nelson Oliveira. He was not involved in the 18 tonight. That was not because Daniel Farke had a go at him about pretending to be snowed in. It's not because he picked up an injury. It was over what Daniel Farke called his attitude in training in recent weeks, and from the bits I've heard, he has been seemingly pushing the boundaries and causing a few issues, and to the point where Daniel Farke felt he has to make a stand and discipline him and therefore not involve him in the 18 tonight, even though you'd say of all the positions, a striker, especially one of Nelson's calibre, albeit his scoring record isn't great this season, you'd rather it wasn't someone like him who was missing from the squad. If it had been number 10s, it'd probably been an easier decision to make. Fair play, Daniel Farke makes these calls. He's generally been proven right on most of them, I'd have to say. So it's now, in the words of Farke, up to Oliveira to see how he responds. What we do know is this is not the first time this season. It's happened on repeat, and I've said it a few times. As far as I'm concerned, if someone comes along to maybe ensure Nelson Oliveira plays somewhere else next season and Norwich get to reinvest the money, I would be surprised if that wasn't something Norwich took up in the summer. We will see. He's obviously a player with significant value, and there'll be a little bit that needs to play out there, of course, over the coming months. And we'll have to see what happens, of course, when Norwich head to Hull on Saturday, which is the next game coming up, and whether Nelson Oliveira is involved there in any shape or form. In his place today, we saw Dennis Shrabini, and I'll be honest here, there were a couple of nice moments in terms of him holding the ball up and playing it on, but I don't see enough in terms of his quality with the ball to see that he's ready yet. And of course everyone who's training him at the moment will be hoping that he can make a step up and improve, but at the moment that step up looks considerable, so that is something that's going to have to be considered and tucked into over the rest of the season, especially if Nelson Oliveira is missing in action for the foreseeable. We will have to see. Anyway, I think I've strung out a decent report there on something on a game where minimal things happened. It was what it was. No one's going to remember it. The problem is we've had quite a few of those at Carrow Road, and the attendance was just over 25,000 today, pretty close to Norwich's lowest in the league this season, and you have to say it's not really much going on to entice them back for another week. Hull away, Barnsley away, before Reading come back here at Carrow Road before the international break. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say, so I think we'll leave it there and go home. It's getting late. I have thought of one more thing. Grant Hanley, he was superb today, and he had the chant, "You'll never beat the Hanley." I think that's what they said. It's kind of underlines the impact he's making, and he's actually rapidly becoming a bit of a favourite here. He'll still be here next season, I'm sure, and for Grant, that's probably one plus point for Norwich going forward. There we go. I've spun it out a little bit more. It finished goalless. That's your match report. We will head to Hull. You can follow all the analysis and reaction, of course, at PinkUn.com from tonight and on Saturday if you don't fancy making that poke Tamberside.